All right, welcome back. We are headed into the home stretch of this prophecy series, and today we have more features to look at in this glorious kingdom as we study the reign of the King. So we will finish up today the millennial kingdom, and that will spill over into a look at the great white throne judgment at the end of our study today. And so let's dig in. All right, so we're on the home stretch here. The idea is that, Lord willing, I'll finish up Triptych 7 today. And next Sunday, we'll look at Triptych 8, which deals with the eternal state. And as a look at Revelation chapters 21 and 22. So thank you for being a part, for your faithful attendance and encouraging me. So we left off looking at a new king who's in charge, and he glorifies himself while installing a new government, is what we were talking about. Remember, the Apostle Paul in the Apostle John in the book of Revelation sees thrones plural, after the return of Jesus Christ to the earth. And it's very clearly stated in Revelation chapter 20 and verse 4 that resurrected and glorified tribulation saints rule and reign with Christ. And I believe that those who sit on the thrones, the others who sit on the thrones, it includes resurrected saints from both the Old Testament and New Testament, the New Testament church. But we talked about this new government with these glorified, resurrected saints sitting on thrones, ruling and reigning with Christ. And I just want to emphasize with that there is no possibility that government will be corrupted. Those in charge are uncorruptible. There will be no military coups. There's no possibility that a leader in charge dies, and so consequently the next leader is not quite the same. Or the next leader up chooses to take things in a different direction. There's just no possibility that happens. There's no possible conspiracies. There's no expansion of the government beyond what Christ orders. No corruption of government power. And so just imagine the difference that would make when a new government is put in place with King Jesus sitting on the throne in Jerusalem. There's one other that I want to talk about. We talked about Abraham and Jacob and Isaac being somebody that you could go and talk to them in the kingdom. Christ told his disciples that. Well, here is something, and we also talked about how the 12 apostles were promised by Jesus to sit on the thrones of the 12 tribes of Israel and are judging. But here's something else. Apparently, King David will return to a throne, and he will be over all of Israel just under Jesus Christ. And I should use the word may. He may return to a throne and be over all of Israel just under Christ. Now I'm taking this prophecy from Ezekiel chapter 37. Ezekiel chapter 37, starting in verse 21. Ezekiel prophesied this. Then say to them, thus says the Lord God, surely I will take the children of Israel from among the nations, wherever they have gone, and will gather them from every side and bring them into their own land, and I will make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king over them all. They shall no longer be two nations. So far, this prophecy is looking into the future, and it's a time when there's no longer a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom. Everybody's together again. Nor shall they ever be divided into two kingdoms again. They shall not defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will deliver them from all their dwelling places in which they have sinned, and will cleanse them. Then they shall be my people, and I will be their God. David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they shall all have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. Then they shall dwell in the land that I have given to Jacob my servant, where your fathers dwelt, and they shall dwell there, they and their children and their children's children, forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. All right, so that prophecy from Ezekiel makes very clear, calls him David, and he's on a throne, and he's somehow returned from the dead. Now I say may, because I think there's a possible interpretation that a grandson of David, a descendant of David, is it possible that he's equivalent to David, and so it's just called David, but it's really referring to his grandson, or Jesus Christ? Is this actually a reference to Jesus Christ? That's possible. But I think it's also possible, maybe it's actually David. If it's possible to talk to Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob in the kingdom, then why couldn't David? Why isn't David also present in some capacity in the kingdom? He certainly is a part of the Old Testament saints who are resurrected and brought to life by Christ. And if the 12 apostles sitting on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel is a possibility, and they have to be resurrected from the dead in order to judge the 12 tribes of Israel, then why not David? So I'll continue to use the word may, but it is open to interpretation. But it may be that David returns in the role of king over Israel again. All right. Now there's more to this kingdom. Last week you just begged me to give you more details about this glorious kingdom, and you just wanted to know so much more about it. So I'm eager to give you a few more details about this glorious kingdom. So all men everywhere will adore and serve him as king, as he glorifies himself by modeling Jerusalem after righteousness, truth, and holiness. He will model Jerusalem after righteousness, truth, and holiness. Remember, Jerusalem will be established as a world capital city, as well as the capital of Israel. And it will be known for its righteousness. 2 verses from the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 1, verses 26 through 27. I will restore your judges as at the first, and your counselors as at the beginning. Afterward, You shall be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with justice, and her penitents with righteousness. Now, what's interesting about this verse and this prophecy is the righteousness that proceeds from the city is preceded by restoring your judges as at the first and your counselors as at the beginning. And so there's a return to a system of judges and counselors that helps keep things and set things straight. And afterward you shall be called the city of righteousness. That fits in my mind, with exactly what we have seen, where there are resurrected saints sitting on thrones, counselors and judges that proclaim righteousness. Isaiah chapter 62, at the end of the book, verses 1 and 2. For Zion's sake, I will not hold my peace. And for Jerusalem's sake, I will not rest until her righteousness goes forth as brightness, and her salvation as a lamp that burns. The Gentiles shall see your righteousness, and all kings your glory. And you shall be called by a new name, which the mouth of the Lord will name. All right, the important part here is that in the context, Israel is losing its glory. It's not righteous. It's being punished. It's going to be carried off captive. There's a dark time coming. But for Zion's sake, I will not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake, I will not rest until her righteousness goes forth as brightness. And I believe that's fulfilled in the millennial kingdom. This righteousness, truth, and holiness, the whole kingdom, everywhere under the rule of Christ, will be known for holiness and truth. Psalm 85, verses 10 through 13. Mercy and truth have met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Yes, the Lord will give what is good, and our land will yield its increase. Righteousness will go before him, and shall make his footsteps our pathway. And I think that extends to the whole earth. Truth shall spring out of the earth. Every nation will be required to toe the line, and obedience will be expected, required, and enforced. Zechariah chapter 14, verses 6 through 18. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whichever of the families of the earth do not come up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, on them there will be no rain. If the family of Egypt will not come up and enter in, they shall have no rain. They shall receive the plague with which the Lord strikes the nations who do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. I think that is a contrast between what everybody would have understood to be true right then, and it's projected that if that behavior were to extend all the way into the kingdom, there's this punishment. But I think, remember, the nations change their hearts, that they will come up and want to come to Jerusalem year to year to worship the King. So I don't think you'll see a lot of this punishment in the actual kingdom, But that's the expectation, and that's what's required. All men everywhere. Next, all men everywhere will adore and serve him as king as he glorifies himself by ushering in unprecedented peace. Unprecedented peace. There will be no more wars among the nations. Not one nation will ever go to war against another nation. There is no threat of war. It's not even a threat. Thus, in the kingdom, there is no military. There is no part of the budget that is designated for national defense. It's not needed. Isaiah chapter 2, verses 2 through 4. Now it shall come to pass in the latter days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established on the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow to it. Many people shall come and say, Come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, and we shall walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge between the nations and rebuke many people. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Isaiah chapter 14, verses 3 through 6. It shall come to pass in the day the Lord gives you rest from your sorrow and from your fear and the hard bondage in which you were made to serve. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers. And I think that when you think about wars and why they exist today and a nation rising up against another nation, the result of the curse as it has affected men's hearts lead to pride and lead to jealousy and hatred, and there's a new heart that's given to the men and women in the kingdom. But it isn't just nations struggling against other nations as a result of the curse. Ultimately, the whole world is broken and needs redemption. The plants struggle under a curse, and the animals struggle under corruption. Even the land itself struggles under the curse. And I believe there will be some element, and I think this one is tough because how much of this is eternal state stuff and how much of this is the kingdom? But I think there will be a partial or a lifting of some of the curse on creation. If we come back to Isaiah, Isaiah predicted a radical change on the way animals behave towards each other. Isaiah chapter 11, verses 6 through 9. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the young goat. The calf and the young lion and the fatling together. And a child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze. Their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play by a cobra's hole, and the weaned child shall put his hand in the viper's den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain. For the earth, notice, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Isaiah 11, verses 6 through 9. Now, one of the reasons I'm fairly convinced this is talking about the millennium is it talks about a child, it talks about a nursing child. And so Pretty sure this is millennial truth. Isaiah 65, verse 25, the wolf and the lamb shall feed together. The lion shall eat straw like the ox, the dust shall be the serpent's food. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, says the Lord. Just imagine an animal kingdom and a plant kingdom where part of the curse has been lifted and these animals behave completely differently. Not only will there be radical changes in the plant world, but also the cursed earth, the land itself. This is from Isaiah 35, for waters shall burst forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. The parched ground shall become a pool, and the thirsty land springs of water. In the habitation of jackals, where each lay, there shall be grass with reeds and rushes. A highway shall be there, and a road, and it shall be called the highway of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for others. Whoever walks the road, although a fool, shall not go astray. No lion shall be there, nor shall any ravenous beast go up on it. It shall not be found there, but the redeemed shall walk there, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. Isaiah 35, 6 through 10. Isaiah also predicts that sickness and disease will find a cure. Healing and curing is available in the kingdom. Isaiah 35, verses 5 through 6. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. Then the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the dumb sing. Remember when Christ started his ministry and he opened the prophet Isaiah and he read to the scribes there, he read this verse, and he said, today this is fulfilled in your presence. And then Christ went on to do a lot of healing. When he returns to earth, there's the possibility of curing. Ezekiel echoes this same message. Ezekiel 34, verses 15 through 16. I will feed my flock, and I will make them lie down, says the Lord God. I will seek what was lost and bring back what was driven away, bind up the broken, and strengthen what was sick. Ezekiel 34, 15 through 16. And finally, 100 years old will be considered young to die. Believe it or not, 100 years old will be considered young to die. And if you think about that, I've had the privilege of pastoring a centennial. Did you ever have anybody in your church that was 100, Dan?
Close.
Yeah. Anybody know someone in the... Grandma Butts was at West Clarksville Baptist Church. She lived to over 100 years old. I pastored her. I talked with her. And she was old. Sorry. She was old. But listen to this verse, Isaiah 65, 19 through 20. I will rejoice in Jerusalem and joy in my people. The voice of weeping shall no longer be heard in her, nor the voice of crying. No more shall an infant from there live but a few days, nor an old man who has not fulfilled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner, being 100 years old, shall be accursed. All right, so I don't think that's the eternal state because it refers to dying. And I think it's still possible in the millennium there will be those that are mortals There will be death still in the kingdom. There will be new births in the kingdom. Life will go on among mortal men, just like it does now. All right? And then there will be unprecedented economic prosperity. Isaiah chapter 4 and verse 2. In that day the branch of the Lord shall be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and appealing. Amos chapter 9 verses 13 through 14. Behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, when the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him who sows seed. The mountains shall drip with sweet wine, and all the hills shall flow with it. I will bring back the captives of my people Israel. They shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and drink wine from them. They shall also make gardens and eat fruit from them. Isaiah 65 verses 21 through 23. They shall build houses and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and eat their fruit. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree, so shall be the days of my people. And my elect shall long enjoy the works of their hands. They shall not labor in vain. So that seems to be promising this unprecedented economic prosperity in the millennial kingdom. So that picture we have painted, you just step back and you go, wow, what a place. What a glorious looking kingdom. Aren't you glad we did the long answer for you? You could see all of that. Yeah? How long will it last?
1,000 years.
It's predicted to last 1,000 years. Unfortunately, at the end of 1,000 years, God reveals to us in Revelation chapter 20 and verse 7 that Satan, who has been bound this entire time, he's not free to move about. I'm assuming that also includes the demons. There are no evil, wicked, spiritual forces at work during this 1,000 years. But when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth. Now I'm going to introduce this section as the Great White Throne Judgment. We're not quite there yet, but that's what I'm going to entitle this section. And this next map here, we're going to, there's where we left off. The next slide's going to scoot everything over and give us some more room to write. There we go. I don't know if that's true on your little map there, but how much room you've used up so far, but I just scooted it over so we've got more room here. So we have Satan coming up out of this bottomless pit. He goes out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. The population of the earth during the millennium has re-exploded, and there's a lot of people on the earth. And somehow, after Satan is released, he goes out to deceive the nations to the four corners of the earth. I don't know how he does it. I don't know what he can promise that is somehow dupes everybody who's experienced what we just described for 1,000 years. But somehow he does and convinces them to gather together that they're capable of overthrowing their king. And they gather for a battle. So there's a slide that says deception and rebellion. And they went up on the breadth of the earth. Again, this is a rebellion that's, everybody's coming from everywhere. The entire earth is affected. And they surround the camp of the saints and the beloved city. I take it that that's a reference to the New Jerusalem or the heavenly Jerusalem. The New Jerusalem, I think, will either be on the earth during the millennial kingdom, and that's the place that Christ has prepared for us. And that is where the saints hold up. And so there may be some withdrawing of the government leadership and turning it over to others, to mortals. And that's how Satan gets in and somehow deceives them and convinces them they can rebel against and overthrow the king and that there's something better out there for them. But here the saints all seem to be located in one place, and the king is in one place, and they come up and surround it. They went up on the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. At that point, this fire, I think, that consumes them is also a part of the destruction of the heavens, the present heavens and the earth, just before the creation of the new heavens and the new earth. That seems to be the point of verse 11. Then I saw a great white throne and him who sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away. So when this fire consumes everyone, it also consumes everything. And that is described in another place by Peter. In 2 Peter, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up. Therefore, since all these things will be dissolved, what manner of persons ought you to be in holy conduct and godliness, looking for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be dissolved, being on fire, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. So that was Peter's vision. God has promised not to destroy the entire earth again and everyone on the earth again by water, but that doesn't include fire. It isn't that he won't destroy everyone on the earth again and destroy the earth again, but it won't be water. It'll be a fire. All right? Isaiah 51, verse 6, lift up your eyes to the heavens and look on the earth beneath, for the heavens will vanish away like a smoke, the earth will grow old like a garment, and those who dwell in it will die in like manner. But my salvation will be forever, and my righteousness will not be abolished. So with the destruction of everything, then we have a resurrection and the great white throne judgment. So this is an arrow all the way up to the throne. Then I saw a great white throne and him who sat on it. I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works, by the things which were written in the books. The sea gave up the dead who were in it, and death and Hades delivered up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one according to his works. So the basis of the great white throne judgment is to judge all men, all men will have to give an account before God of their lives and everything they did. That will be weighed and judged by the holy eyes of the righteous Lord. And a check will be made whether their names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. And that reminds us that really everybody, you and I, if we were to stand and be judged on the basis of our works, would be condemned. It is only because of the blood of Jesus Christ and being able to be found written in the Lamb's Book of Life that we would have hope of surviving this judgment. And because of what Christ did for us, there is the hope of eternal glory made possible through the blood of the Lamb. But a check is made, and anybody not found written in the book of life are judged according to their works, and they are cast into the lake of fire. Then death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, and anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. I think somewhere in there I skipped over the fact that Satan is at the end of that rebellion where they surround the New Jerusalem. He's cast into the lake of fire at that point. I think I skipped over that. But at this great white throne judgment, now all men who are judged, not found written, they are cast into the lake of fire. And then there's the creation of the new heavens and the new earth. Wow. I have just a couple of minutes for questions. If you want, the triptych number 8 is going to be the eternal state. That'll be next Sunday. And we're going to be looking at Revelation chapter 21 and 22 at what the eternal state, how it's described, what it will be like after the creations of a new heavens and new earth. All right? Did I confuse you anywhere along the way today? Any questions? Daniel.
I have a question, but I can't help to think how through the different dispensations, the different times that God has allowed people a different way to come to Him. And when we talk to people and they give different reasons, whether it's for, if He did miracles, then I would believe. If He did, and we see throughout the history of the Bible, right from the beginning, an absolute perfect creation, living, talking with God, with no sin, they sin. And then we have a time after that where, before the law, where it's different again, and they keep sinning. And then God says, okay, follow this law and you can be with me. And they still rebel. And then there's a time of grace where He says, I've died for you guys have seen, you guys know you're sinners, and I'm going to take all that away. And they still sin. Okay, well, what about a terrible king to judge the earth and see how terrible you guys are, and then maybe you could believe. And then they still rebel. And then there's 1,000 years of absolute perfect reign, and God's going to judge every single day, and everything's going to be perfect. People are going to be working. They're going to be gathering the fruits of their labor. They're not going to be stealing from other people. And then they still sin. And that's during a time that there's no devil on the earth. This is by your own volition that you're seeing that you're sinning. It's just cool to see that God gives so many opportunities to really give you absolutely no reason to say, I didn't know, I can't do it, I have reasons to. We really just have no reason to not believe. us by our own selves, we are sinners no matter what. We're born in with that, and it's just neat that he kind of takes all reasons away not to believe him.
All right, let me summarize a couple of things that Daniel said. One correction that I'm going to make, or at least from my perspective, one correction. But you went exactly where, if somebody asked me the question, why that rebellion at the very end, I think Daniel hit it right on the head. All of this kind of reveals there is a broken heart that needs changing by Jesus Christ. And even if your circumstances and environment were perfect, an evil heart still manifests itself in an evil way. And that's what it will show at the very end, where they lived in all that perfection and still choose to rebel. And that's important because when you think about it, we live in a current world that really thinks if you changed people's circumstances, they would be better. Yeah. And it's just that ignores the heart that's inside. And that's what Christ, I'm getting away from, every time I move away and then I listen to, why didn't you stay closer to the mic? But that is what Christ talked about so much, and the Sermon on the Mount is just really targeted towards trying to reveal the hearts of people. The one correction that I think I would make, or important to say, Daniel, is I don't like the phrase of different ways to God. I think throughout all dispensations, there's only one way that has ever been to God, and that's through shed blood and faith. Faith in what God has provided through the shed blood. And I think that was true of Adam and Eve. That was true of Abel. That was true of Noah. That was true of Moses. Without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sins. But there have been different periods where life looked a little different, and we were taking steps towards getting there. And there is another little series that I have that I might do for you sometime, and it really fleshes out and manifests and looks at this idea of taking steps towards God accomplishing a goal. But it's to trace the phrase, I will be their God, they shall be my people, and I will dwell with them. You find that phrase from Genesis to Revelation. And you look at that, and there are definite steps taken where that's becoming more and more and more of a reality. So that might be a series that I do. It won't be 14 weeks. I promise. All right. Gotta go. Go. Get. Run. All right. Well, just one more week to go, and we are now at the eternal state. Revelation chapter 21 and 22 describe in the greatest detail what the eternal state will look like as we inhabit the new heavens and the new earth. So join us next week as we start to wrap this series up. Thank you.